is an author as a researcher. He is an ex-director, CBRN at the Directorate of Perspective Planning, Army Headquarters. He was an advisor to Government of India, and he is a book author also. So I would recommend to speak about the book. There's a brilliant book that we have come up.
Yeah, thank you, Amitava. Thank you for getting me on board here. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving that introduction. And yes, I would like to say a word about my book. It's called Toxic Portents, and it is on CBRN incident management in India. CBRN standing for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. So it's a book, one of its kind. So something which pertains to what is happening today in the world and how India should cope with it is mentioned in that book. So it is an interesting read for those who are interested in the subject. So please do get a copy and read it. It is available on Amazon.in hardbound as well as Kindle versions. Yeah, Amitava. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Cornell and all the audiences, this is the first session. I would definitely like to give a brief. What is the aim of this platform? Right now, if we come on the kind of, whether it's a WhatsApp, whether it's a LinkedIn, whether it's a Facebook, it's full lot of webinars what is happening. And we all agree on that. And we really don't aspire to start another webinar just for the namesake. What we want to aspire, we really aspire to create a proper learning series where there will be solid takeaways for the participants. What we really aspire to make it a comprehensive and interactive platform for the innovators. So just to give you a brief and bring everybody on the same page, initially this learning series will be divided into two phases. The first phase is definitely the recent COVID-19, and then we'll gradually move towards the innovation. In fact, what you are doing right now, that is also innovation, to be very honest and to be very precise. Gradually, post-COVID-19 series, we will start inviting the innovators for the discussions. Being in academics, what I always believe that you, me, or whoever it is, we are the one who can only guide. But end of the day, students are the one who need to be the role models. They have to be elevated. Once students along the mentors or the guides come and discuss their journey, that will give a proper kick to the other students. This is what we are envisioning in long run. And I hope people like you coming into this platform and sharing insights will give you the required light in this time. Probably I would like to have some thoughts on you, what we are trying to envision. Some more guidance will be definitely helpful for us. Yes, Athavale.
Yes, thank you, Amitav, for that introduction as to what this whole series is about. I would just like to add that we need to get more implementation aspects included. We have been talking a lot about policies and guidelines and things like that, but what is happening on ground? And that is where we would like to focus. I would like to mention here the good work that Sapio Analytics and Sapio Umbrella team has done in this field. And I would be talking about certain things in perspective of the work which has been done on ground in certain areas, how it has helped implementation at the ground level. So I would like to emphasize on those issues and help people take back those ideas, share those ideas, spread that idea, and use those best practices elsewhere to help mitigate this problem. Not only this problem, but other problems also of this nature which may come up in future. These are all learning phases, and we should take note of these. Yeah.
Sure. In fact, since you are talking about, because you all are scared. And right now, what is the most critical element for all of us is to learn how to control, prepare, and act and reboot quickly. if I just see your background and your expertise and your vast experience, none can shed light better than you on this. For the audience, just to give you some small instruction, you can post your queries. This is going to be more like a discussion forum. We will try to take the questions after the session. If we still can't cover all, we will definitely have another session where we would like to have Cornell again, and we can have one more round of insightful sessions. I hope, Cornell, you will make some time for us if we can't
Sure.
cover everything, right?
Sure.
Thank you. Here we start, and my first question for you: you understand disaster management better than all of us. You have advised government of India. Now, if I see this pandemic, all the indications what is pointing towards is an upcoming storm. If I really want to say in that way, if I talk about the daily figures since first May, it's a steep increase both in the cases and deaths. So, what's your take? How much India is prepared? Are we really ready for the storm?
Okay. I got your question. I would like to answer in both yes and no. Yes, in the sense, firstly, before I go on to saying yes and no, yes, the storm is coming. India, as of today, is yet to peak. And we are seeing what is happening every day. There are cases which are rising, and the numbers are increasing day by day. The number of per day cases are increasing every day. So we are going to attain a peak, and we are, going to have problems in various fields because of this rising of number of infective cases, number of possibly, hopefully not, some casualties taking place in case we are not fully prepared. And therefore, we need to prepare ourselves mentally, physically, infrastructurally to meet this kind of a challenge. Yes, the government is doing a lot, people are doing a lot, communities are doing a lot towards preparing for this kind of a thing. But to my mind, we are not ready. To my mind, we are not ready because we probably have not structurally utilized the lockdown period to build our capability for this storm. The whole aim of the lockdown period should have been to build ourselves in capability wise, capacity wise, to meet this storm. This storm is going to come. This virus is not going to die down. We need to learn to fight this virus. And therefore, I think we are not fully ready to meet this storm. There is still time. There is a lot which can be done, whether it is healthcare systems, hospital spaces, the availability of medics and nurses, the availability of medical equipment. Uh, Going beyond that, come on the streets, the law enforcement agencies, whether it is the police, whether it is the paramilitary forces, whether it is volunteer forces who are there, people who are volunteering out. I would like to mention here specifically the good work being done by a group of students and people, working people. They are known by the term as lockdown heroes. It is working in a number of cities now. These are the people who are otherwise normal workers going to work, going to offices, students who have come down on the streets to help the needy, to distribute food, to distribute medicines to the elderly people, and so on and so forth. So the community is also participating in that. But are we strengthening the community for what is going to come? I think we need to understand the impact of what is likely to happen, what is going to come, and therefore strengthen our communities, strengthen our systems, strengthen our healthcare facilities to that, which I think we are not yet ready. Yeah.
Thank you, Athavale ji. So, if I take the kind of thread that you are giving, this is nothing short of an innovation across the ground, right? Whether it's a government organization, whether it's a medical ground, whether it's whatever it is, all about the innovation. In fact, just to give you some background, since we are talking about this learning series, we are part of this Atal Innovation Mission of NITI Aayog, and we are trying our best to create the next generation of innovator who can actually solve the unsolved problem the way right now everybody is trying. That was the reason we thought of this kind of, innovative learning series where people like you can, inspire the young generations and give a lot of innovative solutions. And that's how we came out with. And if I see, taking the cue from you, right now, whatever is happening, the data is very important in this preparedness. Be it a lockdown strategy, be it exit strategy, be it a forecast of the COVID curve, data is the central key. Right now, you already, initially you were talking about that you will be covering the decision support system, and here I come with the question. Right now, you are a part of a decision support system and helping government with precise data and different other aspects. To be very honest, I'm also a part of it, but definitely, not able to contribute as much as you are doing it. But wherever I'm talking about the decision support system, right, the work you guys are doing, the brilliant work Ashtin has started, people are excited to know. I really, would request you to give some overview of this DSS and how this DSS is doing some unprecedented work. Some shade, please.
Okay. Right. The DSS, or the decision support system for COVID-19, which has been developed by a team of experts, team of students, team of specialists in various fields, uh, including a lot of IT specialists who have come together on various platforms and made this possible, is a very comprehensive decision support system. It is working basically on three pillars. The first pillar is prediction. Now, what it does is it is collecting data from various fields, including international data, and trying to build a prediction model for the country, for various cities, for various types of areas, including highly congested areas, normal residential societies, marketplaces, and so on. And this data buildup of prediction is used as to what would be the rise in the cases which are taking place in various sectors. Based on these predictions, it is also clubbed with predictions of what effects it would start having on various aspects, whether it is a social aspect, whether it is economic aspect, and so on. So this kind of a prediction data is collected and worked out. After that, we have what is called the preparation. Now, when we are preparing ourselves for the next stage, we are looking at this predictive data and we are weighing it against what are the factors which are governing this data. We worked on two white papers in the under the Sapio Umbrella team, and we came out with a white paper on the economic impact of the COVID-19 and the lockdown.
Yes.
And we also came out with a white paper on the social impact of the lockdown in India. We worked on this in a very, very deliberate manner. We took data from the ground with our volunteers who were on the ground, who were collecting physical data from various places, as also analytical data from examples, not only from India, but from abroad. And we worked on different models to work out which will be the optimal method of utilization of various things in a situation. Take, for example, a congested area of a slum area, maybe. What is the type of social fabric there? What is the level of, what is the social distancing norms there? What is the index of social distancing at that place? So we took that into account. And then we built up on that by using other issues like essential availability, access and exits, availability of healthcare and medical facilities, availability of hygiene and sanitation in that area. What is the psychological effect on people? Has the crime rate changed or increased or decreased in certain places? Has the lockdown affected the crime rate in certain places? So all this type of data was collected and brought together. And we worked on models which would tell us as to what would be the optimal solution at a particular place to make sure that things were moving in a very smooth and streamlined manner and people were getting their required essentials including the healthcare and the medical facility, without breaking the norms laid down for the lockdown. So that is what this model is working on. So this decision support system is now being implemented at some places, and fruitfully being implemented, I should say. And I think we have a lot of takeaways from this particular system. Yeah.
Great. But Cornell, whether we are working in India or abroad, and specifically, when we are working in this pandemic scenario or in a kind of disaster, the work is not easy. When you work, we always face some challenge. And when we are working in this kind of complex decision-making system with different organization or probably with a different government, I'm sure there might be certain problems and hurdles. So what are the key challenges faced by the teams when managing a disaster? And what are the specific problems identified with handling some pandemics? Probably if you shed some light, that will be quite useful for the audience.
Okay. You see, when a pandemic situation or a biological disaster of this nature occurs, there is a lot of phobia around the whole thing. There's a lot of fear and paranoia in the public about it. At the same time, there is a lot of lack of awareness and lack of understanding as to what exactly is the threat which we are facing. And therefore, there are two sides which are there. There are some people who are highly paranoid and who are very worried and who are scared of the whole thing, while there are others who are showing unnecessary optimism and bravado which is there. So these two are actually both extremes in a situation like this. And we need to make people understand, that is the first thing which we need to do, is raise awareness levels of what such pandemics or such disasters are. What are its effects? How can we mitigate these effects? Now, this basic understanding of disasters of these kind, whether it is a biological disaster or a chemical disaster, or even for that matter, a radiological or a nuclear disaster, the understanding of these kind of disasters is quite different from natural disasters occurring. India has faced many natural disasters, but these are the type of disasters which put a lot of scare in our mind. While we were looking at COVID and we were fighting COVID and all these kinds of things, just in the last 1 week, there have been about 4 or 5 gas leak situations across the country.
Right.
The major one being at Vizag. It has spread so much of a scare while all this is happening that, you see, there are different threats which we are encountering. The basic thing is understanding. What is the threat? How much is it going to affect us? And that is where administration comes in. That is where volunteers come in. That is where NGOs come in, who will be able to convey this message correctly to the public as to what is the level of threat. For this, there is very important thing is that all these people, these agencies need to be on the same page. If we are only going to use, say, for example, social media and start spreading messages across the board, we are going to create panic and chaos. So we need to be very careful as to what is the kind of awareness that we are trying to generate. It was very hilarious and surprising, but not funny really, frankly speaking. The number of suddenly sprouting experts on biological warfare, which I found in the last about 3 months' time. It is amazing to see the number of people who have come out as experts on biological warfare. I dare say, if all of them really understand what biological warfare is. It is not something to be talked of very casually. It's a very, very serious matter, and we need to prepare for that. So the first thing is awareness. The second thing is capacity and capability building in such kind of disasters. Those are the challenges which we are facing. We started off with COVID-19 with a total lack of PPE and masks in the country. These are not rocket science items. These are very simply manufactured items. And it's not that our country did not have or does not have industries who are manufacturing this. Before COVID-19 started, we have industries who are not only manufacturing it in India and supplying it in India, but there are industries in India who are exporting these items at world-class level quality. We have such industry in India. Unfortunately, the numbers which were required suddenly on a daily basis overwhelmed the industry. And that is where we did not foresee capacity building in this kind of a disaster. So capacity and capability building, when I talk of capability, I'm talking of number of trained personnel, paramedics, medics, things like that, hospital space. Now we are running around trying to convert schools and stadiums and things like that into isolation spaces. Do we have a plan? Do we have a strategy to work in such kind of disasters? We need to think about this. We need to sit and give it a rational thought and start working on this. COVID-19 has brought about a lot of lessons for us. There are a lot of challenges which we have faced in the last 3 months. And I dare say we may still be facing some more challenges in the times to come. Lifestyle changes have taken place. Psychological impact has happened. I'm yet not touching the economic part of the whole thing at all. Frankly, because economics is not my subject. But notwithstanding that, the economic impact that it has had not only on India, but across the world is huge. Both my children are working and I'm listening to how people are losing jobs on a day-to-day basis. People are getting laid off. It's so difficult in a time like this where you are already looking at a disaster around you to even lose your jobs. It has a huge amount of psychological aspect on that. Psychosocial effects, preparing the society for this kind of a thing is another issue which is a challenge. So there are many challenges which are there in preparing for such kind of disasters, and pandemics like COVID-19 are something which are teaching us resilience of the society in many aspects, and we must build upon this resilience in various blocks and consolidate that whole thing. That is what my point is.
Great, Colonel. In fact, it was an insightful one. I'm just taking a cue from your answer. You were talking about the disasters. You were talking about that Bhopal gas leak. You were talking about the storm. But if I see the COVID-19 versus other disasters, is totally different. COVID-19, everybody is affected, right? So whether it's a business, whether it's retail, whether it's students, general public, each and everyone, whether it's the grocery, everybody. But if I talk about the other, what is happening, like right yesterday, it happened in Bengal and Odisha. It's just specifically, few segment or probably some geographic area is getting affected. Bhopal gas leak or the other, what happened in couple of days back, it was a specific zone-wise happening. It's not that spread enough. So thinking about that spread and thinking about that effect, I would like you to shed some light how this different segment of people like general public, business, retail, student, etc. get impacted and possible solution. It might be a workable solution because probably whether it's a workable solution or whether it's still in R&D mode and it will be more fine-tuned. But right now addressing their concern has become a priority. How to do that?
Yeah. You see, there are different segments of society which need to be considered in this. At the same time, there are different strata of society which is also to be considered. Now, India is a huge country, and therefore, in India, there is a third aspect which needs to be considered, which is regional and cultural issues, which also get added to this vulnerability which we are talking of. I'm calling it a vulnerability now. It's actually an asset, the cultural and regional peculiarities of India. These are assets. But as of now, because of this disaster, they are looking like vulnerabilities. I'm referring to people from different parts of the country who are working in another part of the country suddenly feel alienated. Whether it is a migrant, whether it is an IT level worker, whether it is a top MNC worker or MNC employee, he may still be a migrant. And I would not like to call these people as migrants. Everybody who goes out for work would be otherwise termed a migrant. So let us call them people who are out for work and not as migrants. We are going out for work because we find better opportunities at some place and we go and work in those places. Now, the onus lies on not only the employer, the government, the local administration, and myself when I'm going there to ensure that I am working in a comfortable, safe manner in that particular place. the onus lies on everyone across, right from the person up to the government of India, or maybe beyond when you're talking of international levels. So at different strata, different levels, we have to understand the psyche of people, the psyche of organizations, the psyche of the government agencies, as to why are they working in this kind of a manner, and analyze these. Now, when we are talking of the decision support system, one of the applications in a futuristic kind of a thing of the decision support system is that we get inputs of these kinds from various agencies, build a model, and find out, say, a segment school going children. What are the areas which have affected them? What are their necessities? What are their peculiarities? What are their psychological aspects which need to be catered for? And build on this a model as to which would be the optimal way that a child, a school going child, should be looked after in such a scenario. A similar thing can be built up for a worker, an employee, a factory employee, a MNC or a corporate employee, and so on. Now, apart from that, there is a very important aspect of our society which we need to consider. And those are housewives. Those are people at home. Those are our elderly. Those who are retired. They are not getting impacted in the same manner that a working employee is getting impacted. But yes, they are getting impacted at all, in a lot of manner. And we need to take cognizance of that impact on this section of society, which, mind you, is a very big section of society. The people who are at home, not during the lockdown, but even otherwise who are at home, they are the people who also need to be considered. And such models can be built using the DSS to work out how best a solution can be found to look after their needs, their psychological aspects, and their aspirations in a critical situation like this. So that is how I would prefer to go about it, in a more logical manner, by collecting data. This is the time to collect the data on these societal aspects and build up on different models for different strata of society, different age groups, different working groups, and so on. There's another group which is there, which is the government employee group, which is impacted in a very different kind of a manner than a private employee group. A government employee group has got, I would say, as of today, two different groups which are existing, the way I look at it. There is one particular group in a government employee area which is totally engrossed in working for the COVID. They don't have time to breathe. There's a second group, which is a smaller group, which may not be so highly employed, but they are still government employees. Because during the lockdown, their work levels have gone almost to zero. So they are the people who can be tapped, who can be used for other services at this time to supplement these people who have become, overemployed. Yeah.
Great insight, Colonel. My next question is quite scary. It's not only me, probably all the audience are thinking on the same fashion, the way the news are getting, or probably whenever we get the morning masses in our group or from the news channels and all. One thing right now, if I compare the number of India, is still on the lower side. If I compare with US, but the speed at which the numbers are doubling is quite alarming. There are a lot of speculations, Cornell. There are people who are talking. There are a lot of news are coming that probably the tests have been done and it's quite less number of tests, or we have limited the testing facilities. So there's a speculation. Now, what is the way forward? Definitely, there is some lockdown has been happening, which is a direct correlation with this number of spreading and all, right? Some message has come that probably the strategy was right, but it's an implementation failure has happened. How do you see? How do you see the lockdown strategy working, and what is the way forward?
Okay. You see, the lockdown strategy, firstly, the peak is, like I mentioned before also, the peak is coming to us. In another 15-20 days, we will see cases rising and our figures doubling quite fast. It is going to happen. Already, people are talking of the new epicenter in the world being India. We have crossed the number of cases what China had. So we have already become an epicenter kind of a thing, especially in the Asia region. And therefore, we need to take serious stock of the situation at this time. The lockdown, to my mind, in India started slightly earlier than it should have. Yes, it was a proactive kind of an action taken by the government. Maybe the advisors and the powers that be felt that this was the right time to start that. What has happened is the psychological impact of the threat did not get transferred to the population when the lockdown started. The population had not yet got the whole, the idea of the threat, that this is what is going to happen to us in case we don't take precautions. I don't think that really sunk in at that time when the lockdown started. It was, yes, it is happening there in Europe, it is happening there in America, it is happening in China. In India, it had not yet sunk into the common masses that such kind of, mass casualties will happen, which, because of the lockdown, got delayed. This threat perception got delayed. And to a certain extent, it got diluted. Why? Because the lockdown managed to control our number of infected people in a very big manner. So therefore, that threat, there are hundreds of people lying on the road, and the videos which people saw on WhatsApp and social media initially, people falling on the road and things like that, it never happened in India. So what are you talking about? What threat are you talking about? So that sinking of the threat got delayed. And because of this lockdown extensions, what has happened is people were not seeing that kind of thing happening on the ground. People were not seeing the threat happening on ground. And lockdown kept getting extended. Yes, our figures today compared to what the world has and the population that we have are fantastic. We have done a wonderful job as of containing the whole thing, but it's a time contained. It's a timed containment. Peak is going to happen. It's a natural thing which is going to happen. It's something which you cannot avoid. So what we need to do is we need to prepare for this peak. And we need to prepare the public for this peak. We need to tell the public the correct figures. We need to tell public what is going to be the threat overall, what can happen in future, and what they should be looking at. If they want to go out, if you want to start work, if you want to start business, I can understand a whole lot of other issues which compound this whole thing. But at the same time, taking precautions is a must. You can't just go around and mill around in a bar or in a public place or in the market and things like that. You are bound to compound the spike which is going to happen. And we don't want to compound the spike which is going to happen. Our wherewithal, our infrastructure that we are building up is planned to contain the spike or fight the spike, I would say. Not contain the spike, but fight the spike, to meet the spike in the right perspective. But if we are going to go and compound the spike by bravado, by complacency, by increasing our presence outside in the open without any precautions, then I think we are spoiling all that we have gained from all this lockdown till now. So, mind you, I am staying in Pune. I have not moved out of the house more than 100 meters, and that too once in 10 days for essential pickup of vegetables or something. Other than that, I have not moved out more than 100 meters from my house. We are in lockdown, and every citizen needs to understand what lockdown is. If I go out, I should take full precautions. I should maintain my social distance. I should do my work for whatever duration is required and come back. Not linger around, not stroll around. So there are a lot of compounding factors which may dilute what the lockdown has achieved. And that is what we should guard against. Yeah.
Thank you. In fact, my next question is also related to lockdown only.
Okay.
There are a lot of talks what is happening regarding lockdown. See, lockdown is a very pretty simple word, but if you really see the kind of effect, country of 1.3 billion, you just can't go and have a lockdown directly. There are a lot of back-end work happens. And you being a disaster expert, you can understand and you know better that what kind of back-end planning happens, as well as what kind of contingency planning, government need to do. Nowadays, what is happening, everybody is coming and talking about lockdown, it could have been happened early, or it's a late, or it's a timely. There are a lot of speculation. So considering the kind of, whole big gamut of lockdown, what is your takeaway? Like, do you feel that the lockdown was pretty early, or it's a timely call?
You see, the lockdown, to my mind, was slightly early than what should have been. Like I mentioned before also, that the threat did not sink into the country at all. So we took a lot of proactive action and we started the lockdown. It was very good because we limited our cases to a very large extent. But then conversely, on the flip side, what has happened is, on the ground level, you find there are a lot of violators of the lockdown. There are a lot of orders which are not clear to people. The orders of the lockdown, the restrictions which are there, which have been issued, say, at center level, there are slight differences at the state level. From each state to state, there is a difference in what the center orders is and what the state has finally ordered. So there is a little confusion in the minds of people, especially those who are working interstate online. Something which is different in a state where people can go to offices and say, in my state, there is total lockdown. I'm in a containment zone. I can't even step out of my house. I have to work from home. Now, what are the orders for that company? How does that particular organization function? There is no standard order which is possible to be implemented across the country. This is one of the issues which I found, which was dichotomic. The second issue is orders from the state to the municipal corporations, and when the municipal corporation has passed the orders to its various organs who are implementing or enforcing it on the ground, there is a lot of difference which is taking place. I'll give you the example of my common shop owner who's just across the street. This guy opens his shop at 7, closes at 8 o'clock, then he opens at 11 o'clock, then closes at 12 o'clock. So one day I asked him, why do you do all this? He says, sir, मेरे को मालूम नहीं है कब क्या खोलना है, ऑर्डर कुछ आता है, हमको मिलता कुछ और है, और जो ग्राउंड पे डंडा लेके बंदा खड़ा है वो मेरे को डंडा मार के दरवाजा शटर बंद करने को बोलता है. So what is happening is that what is being passed as an order, what is coming down to the people, is there is a lot of gap in between. There's a lot of difference in between. For the simple case, like for example, getting domestic help in various societies now. That is one of the issue which was asked to me the other day by somebody as to what should we do? Should we get domestic help back home to work? Now, my house may be clean, my society may be clean, the area may be totally uncontaminated. I am asking a maid to come from another area. She may be coming from an uncontaminated area, traveling through maybe a lot of places which could be contaminated. She may be working in 5 houses. Some of them may not be as clean, as good as mine. So we are not only risking ourselves, but we are risking the life of that maid whom you are planning to call. We have to take into consideration their health. These people are going out of their way because they require the funds, they require the money, they require the job. And we need to be considerate about their health accordingly. There was another order which came that they should all get a medical certificate that they are in good health before they enter your society. Can you tell me, in this present situation, how does a maid go to which hospital and get a medical certificate to say that she is fit to work in a house? It's almost impossible.
Right.
So these are various issues which are there. The lockdown has started, and I must, to kill the issue here, I will just give you a joke which I read on WhatsApp. I think it is apt joke to conclude this lockdown issue here. It said that lockdown is like a lungi, ऊपर से tight, नीचे से खुला. And that is exactly what is happening on ground. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I move to the next question, a small message for the audience. I would request whatever the questions you have, please write in the chat section. so that once Cornell ji, finish the next question, parallelly we can start taking our last set of questions and we can start picking the questions that are in the chat. As mentioned earlier, if we have good questions and if we cannot cover, probably we can have one more session, but we'll try our best to finish it today itself. So for the audience, please start writing the question in chat so that we can pick those questions. So my next question is, Cornell, if I see the kind of lockdown, whether we call it as a lockdown 4 or we call it slightly in a different name like opening 1.1, opening 1.2, because there are certain activities has already been started, or if we call it a partial lockdown, whatever it is, how effective it will be considering people's nature of not obeying the rules?
Yes.
Are we risking ourselves? Are we not risking ourselves more? I understand the economical challenge. I understand that running 1.3 billion with this lockdown is difficult. But as you are already saying that the spike is yet to come, where do we stand?
You see, it's a very pertinent question because I already see on the streets outside a lot of movement, a lot of cars and scooters and people walking with bags. I even see people going out for a morning jog and walk every morning because they claim that the air around them is very clean and very nice. From their side, what they're saying is true. The air around them is clean and nice. But what happens when they go a little further where they meet another 10 people? They chat for a while together and they go and meet another 5 people and chat for a while and go further. Now, what you're doing actually is mingling. Every movement and every mingling that you're doing is actually spreading the virus. How do you know you're not an asymptomatic carrier of the virus? You may be an asymptomatic carrier of the virus who's moving around and you go there, you laugh, you sneeze, and you come back and you have done the job.
Right.
So there is a requirement of maintaining precautions. Yes, the lockdown has to open. There has to be movement. There has to be people going out. I don't deny that. But then doing it without precautions is actually asking for trouble. Wearing a mask, wearing gloves if you're handling things, and preferably, as far as possible, cover your bodies so that the virus doesn't stick directly to your skin. Because clothes you can take off and put it in a wash, or you can go home and take a shower after that. But the point is that you need to take precautions. You need to maintain social distance. If you're going to go crowding around just because wo kirani ki dukaan khul gayi hai aaj subah and he's got some fresh stuff, everybody is piling into his shop. That's not the done thing. And that is happening. And that is going to compound the issue. That is going to allow spread of this virus. The second thing which is happening is movement which is starting off. Trains which have started off. We are planning to now start air travel very soon. Even if there are, you leave 2 seats and put another person there, it's not that which is going to make a difference. The very fact that you are moving people from one place to another itself is in a way moving the virus from one place to another. Virus is going to remain with us. It is not going to go away. We have to take precautions on that virus. So when you're moving this virus up and down, there are more chances of people getting infected.
Right.
So long as people are taking precautions, it is okay. But there may be 1 or 2 in between who have not taken precautions and they are going to get affected. So that is what is compounding all this opening of the lockdown. Yes, it has to be done. I don't deny that. But then precautions should not be left. Containment zones which have been marked, the boundaries of the containment zones are not fully demarcated and clear. Roads which are there are common roads to 2 different places. Now, how do you come on that road? Which access do you use? Things like that which are there, which need to be specifically clarified on ground, which is not happening. Yeah.
Great. I'll just pick one question from the audience, and there is a specific request from Cornell Naidu. So Cornell Naidu has given a request that if people can start their video, definitely please be in mute and start writing in chat so that everybody can see each other. This is the last leg right now. The question that I have received from Amitos, thank you. Amitos has given a question that what will be the guidelines for reopening of the schools? There is a burning question all the parents have right now.
Yeah.
Some views from your side.
Yeah. To my mind, opening of schools at this stage is not really appropriate. The very fact is, take your minds to when you were a child. Could you be burdened? Could you be held in place? Could your enthusiasm be curbed? No. And it cannot be done. And let's not do it also. So if you're going to get children to school, they're bound to get together, they are bound to play together, they're bound to sit together and laugh together and enjoy together. So difficult to maintain social distancing. There may be reports and there may be statistical data saying that age group so and so is not getting affected by COVID and all that. As parents, would you like to take a chance for your children to go to a place and get affected by that thing? Child may not get affected. The child comes back with the virus and you get affected at home. Are you prepared for that? Is the parent prepared for that? Let's ask the question to the parents. I don't think so. So I think at this stage, schools, especially younger level schools, where children are not yet mature enough to understand the implications of taking precautions, those schools I don't think should be started as of now. Higher secondary levels, where it is important for their life, the exams, the years, and so on. Yes, those need to be started. But there are various means available nowadays, including online means, what we are doing on the internet today. Such means should be adopted. And the government has started some provisions for introducing online education system, classes, virtual classrooms, and so on, to continue with classroom teachings, even for that level of education. So we must actually make use of all these kinds of things. I understand in rural areas and distant places, such kind of facilities may not be there. So in that kind of a situation, if you want to start, especially for high school levels, please maintain all the precautions and then only start. Otherwise, it is going to cause a problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Colonel. I'll try to pick one more questions, Bijay.
Yeah, sure.
You can always figure it out whether to answer this question right now or maybe in a next session you want to take it up. So Bijay writes that there has been a news that the virus is also mutating, which makes treating it very difficult. Is there any truth in the news? If so, how do you see normalcy coming back? So Bija, this question definitely will have some insight from Cornell, definitely. But we, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be having more experts, and with Cornell, we'll be having medical experts as well. So these type of questions definitely will come back in the other session when the link will be shared, and more medical related questions can be taken at that point of time. But definitely, since it has been asked, if time permits, Cornell can give some insight on this.
Okay. So can I just share my views quickly on this?
Please.
Yeah. All viruses, in fact, most viruses mutate. It's a natural process. So, including COVID-19 will mutate to some extent. And this is a natural process. Man has been living with such viruses in the past, including the mutation process of these viruses. And we have generated immunity against even the mutated versions. So it is not that this is something new which is going to happen. So if we generate immunity against COVID-19, we would subsequently also be able to generate immunity against the mutated version of COVID-19. So it is a process, it's a natural process, biological process which takes place. I am not a biologist, I am not a doctor. So I may not be able to give you specifics of how this happens. Maybe in the next session or something, we can get Dr. Mrinmai, who is a microbiologist, who can explain this in a much better manner. But suffices to say that yes, all viruses do mutate, and therefore we should be prepared for this, and I think our bodies would be able to take that kind of a thing.
Great. Vijay, I would like to have you, in the next session as well.
Yeah.
Yogesh has put an interesting question. Yogesh, I'll be merging your question with my question because there is a very similar question I wanted to ask right now. What is happening? There is a reverse migration is happening. So one side, when the laborers are going or the migrant laborers is going, there is a high chance or the threat of cross contamination. Another side, if the Maharashtra and other states, they are trying to gradually open that, how they are going to resolve the worker issue. So it's where they are going, there is also a challenge. From where they are going, that is also a challenge. It's a double sword kind of thread, you can say. Colonel, how to go ahead with this?
Okay.
Both the states are facing different problem right now.
Yes, yes. I have, in fact, highlighted this in my article, which got published last week on preparing for the possible surge about this cross migration and reverse migration which has taken place. But let me highlight it here. Firstly, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Firstly, the migration should not have happened in the way that it happened. I personally feel the states should have taken a little more hard stand of ensuring that the migrants are occupied and given due jobs during the lockdown situation by employing them in activities which are permitted during the lockdown. The civic work which are there does require a lot of employees to work and to substantiate the people who are already working. And these migrants could have actually been of help in that kind of a situation. As far as migrants who have been employed by private employers, builders, contractors, and such kind of things, I think the contractors should have looked after these. I know of companies, I know of institutions, I know of private players who have actually not only paid their migrant employees the pay for those 2 months, but also given them an extra stipend to tide over the lockdown period. I have such examples in my mind who have companies which have done this, private sector companies which have done this. Yes, initially the company will go into a little loss for the first 2 months or 3 months, but then remember one thing, you will be getting loyal employees thereafter who will stick to your jobs, who will stick to your companies, who will work for you in a much better manner. And I think we did not take stock of this kind of a thing, and we did not take advantage of this issue. And we allowed the migrants to fend for themselves for a very long time, telling them don't go, don't go. And we allowed them finally to go at a time when you also decided to start work, you also decided to start construction, you decided to start businesses. So there is a whole lot of virus movement. Like I mentioned before, every movement is a virus movement. And therefore, this movement of migrants, which has gone from here to other places, has taken the virus in some form or the other. Maybe to places which did not have the virus earlier, and therefore will get a new set of viruses there. And now when you want to get them back, maybe after another 1 month, you will say, okay, come back here. I will offer you a better job and a better salary or something. People will start again migrating this way. And there will be a compounding effect of the virus, especially when the peak is going to come 1 month later. Now you're building up businesses, your contractors, especially in a state like Maharashtra, in Karnataka, and such like places where all the migrants have rushed out from this place. Now the businesses have started, and there is actually a dearth of migrants in this area. I wouldn't say migrants, but the dearth of workers in this area. So where will you get the workers from? So there are job appropriations which are taking place now. There are so many people who have changed their jobs, their businesses in this lockdown period. There is for example, there is a corner shop which used to run a photostat machine and a printing kind of a shop. I found on the other day with a thela, he's selling onions and potatoes and tomatoes on the street. So that kind of job appropriation has happened. These are very different lifestyle changes which we are seeing during the lockdown. And I think this movement of people was at a wrong time. It should have, if at all, firstly, it shouldn't have happened. But if at all it was to happen, I think we should have allowed them to go in a much earlier time frame, informed them, look, this is what is going to happen. This lockdown is predicted to be lasting for 60 days, and therefore you are going to be out of a job for 60 days. Your take, you want to go, decide now, otherwise you will have to continue to stay here. And we should have given them only those options and looked after them. If they're going to stay here, it was the job of the state and the the employer to look after those people, which somehow didn't work
Great.
out in the right manner.
Great.
Yeah.
Colonel, I have a very interesting question for you. The next question, you may put your heart out on it. So right now, if you see, there is a lot of chaos going on, right? There is a places where state force is not able to manage. Things are not, getting managed properly. I'm not saying it's an incapable force, but there is a lot of ground level challenge what is happening because of XYZ factors. And whenever the problem happens, there is always a call of army. Call army, right? Whether it's a central force or army, but the terminology everywhere is getting called the army. That's the last option. What is your take on this? Is the army calling is the option, or we can actually handle this situation in a different way?
Okay. Firstly, let me convey to the viewers, myself being from the army, I want to make a clarification firstly that every person that you see in a camouflage dress does not mean he's from the army. That is the first clarification I would like to say. There are state forces, there are paramilitary forces who are also in an operational situation using camouflage clothing. They do not form part of the army. As far as the armed forces are concerned, they come under the Ministry of Defense, whereas all the central paramilitary forces and the police forces are concerned, they come under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Internal security, what we are seeing today, what is happening is the job of Ministry of Home Affairs. And therefore, all the forces that you see which are getting deployed, whether it be CRPF or CISF or RPF or whatever it is, are all internal security forces, paramilitary forces, central police organizations who come under the Ministry of Home Affairs. They may be wearing a camouflage dress, but that doesn't mean they are from the army. So that is one clarification, first clarification that I wanted to make here. The second thing is, internal security matters need to be handled by internal security management agencies. And our central police organizations, state police organizations, are fully capable of handling these issues. So therefore, the mindset that sab kuch khatam ho gaya, abhi army ko bulao, I think we need to take a call on that. The army or the armed forces have got an onerous task to guard our borders. And mind you, your adversaries are actually waiting for you to leave your borders and come into your hinterland to do such kind of tasks. We don't want our borders to be unsafe. We don't want our borders to be unguarded. Let the armed forces continue to do their job. You have enough forces. Let me tell you, the size of your central police organizations and paramilitary forces is actually same, if not more than the size of your armed forces. So that is the quantum of armed force or uniformed force that you have in the country for your internal security jobs. And we must judiciously utilize these forces. There are enough of them to be utilized, and they can be utilized. So I think there needs to be an understanding, not only in the public, in the common people, but also at the administrative level to some extent, that it is not the army which is the solution for everything. We have solutions internally which should be first exhausted, and if found overwhelmed, only at the last resort that the army or the armed forces should be called in. That is my take on this.
Great. I'll pick one thread of Dhananjay. Dhananjay has put certain things. So he writes, this pandemic needs more education and a lot of things for an individual, society, and most importantly, the warriors. A lot of knowledge and awareness about hygiene and social behavior. Your plan and suggestions. So before I go to you, Cornell, so the message for Dhananjay is, Dhananjay, that is precisely one of the more recent. Sapio Umbrella is starting this series, right? So just to give you a couple of good thread, we have got Nobel laureate Dr. Michael Levitt. We have with us Cornell Naidugare. We have Cornell Sunil Narula, the thought leader, we have Ram Athavale, which is already today, right? We have a lot of people who are the different domain experts. So keep following this Sapio umbrella, keep following this learning series. There are a lot of things which are already happening, and there are a lot of things which are already in the planning. And definitely I'll ask Ram, sir, what is your take on that? Because there are a lot of things we are working together and what more can be done.
Yes, very rightly brought out here that there is a need to generate awareness, there is a need to generate understanding on various issues and at different levels. Uh, like I mentioned, not just common citizens, public at large, but also at different levels of administration, that this kind of knowledge, this kind of understanding of CBRN, I would club them all together, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear issues need to be understood in the correct perspective. To that extent, what my view is, we have started teaching disaster management to high school and college level students. In a lot of universities, this aspect has already started. I used to take some classes for a particular university in Pune on disaster management about 3-4 years, 5 years ago. And that program is still continuing. I'm also at the moment taking guest lectures on CBRN disaster management, CBRN national security, and such like issues in various other universities like the University of Pune, the Gujarat State Forensic University. I gave some workshops in the TIS in Mumbai and so on. So there is a scope of enlarging this particular issue by conducting more workshops, conducting more awareness talks and lectures to generate more awareness among student community. Because these are the future. They are the ones who are going to spread the message. And every student who takes back anything from my workshops, I consider him as an ambassador of this subject to spread that message. And it is working. It is working. I can see in the list of attendees, there are a couple of people who have attended my such talks in the past. So it is heartening to see that they are continuing to attend such talks and spread the message to other people also. So that is another method of doing it. The next stage is to conduct such workshops at administrative levels, at tehsil level, district level, even at state level, municipal levels. At municipal levels, understanding of CBRN aspects of these kind of disasters, how mitigation is done, what are the threats, and what kind of actions need to be taken by different stakeholders is something which needs to be understood correctly. In fact, some time back, we had a very interesting tabletop exercise which was carried out where we depicted municipal level functionaries of different departments, and we got them into play by generating a particular situation, a chemical accident situation in that particular scenario. It was very interesting to see how people molded themselves into those roles and contributed and took away lessons of understanding as to what all is not happening today, what all is going wrong today. So there is a need for enhancing such kind of workshops, such kind of tabletop exercises, both at state level, at district level, municipal level, and so on. And of course, colleges and schools I have mentioned. One important aspect before I close this particular question, healthcare. I don't really know whether medical colleges are teaching on CBRN disaster management and CBRN medical casualty management. I don't think so. I have found, yes, biological aspects, they are trained because they are doctors. They are trained for diseases and such pathogens and such kind of things. But what happens in a chemical disaster? What happens in a radioactive substance disaster? Or a nuclear disaster for that matter? Are these people really trained for that? Do we have the wherewithal to manage all these kinds of things? Is our medical fraternity geared up for all this? We had a case in 2010 in Delhi. The person from that Mayapuri yard actually went to a local doctor, and the doctor was not able to really find what was happening to the person. It was a radiation burn. Because doctors are not trained to look at such symptoms. And I think we need to address this particular issue. Yeah.
Great. In fact, my last question, because it's already 1 hour 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The last question exactly related to the the thought that you had. Whatever we do, end of the day, we need the young thought leaders and young generation to be inspired and do this unsolved problem, right? There is a particular reason why I'm asking this question, because the learning series that we are starting from today, this is going to be a part of the series, and it will be shared with the schools, and the
That's good.
schools which are under the Atal Innovation Mission of NITI Aayog. So they can see, they can get themselves inspired, and they can come out with a lot of innovative ideas. So my question has two thread of it. First question is, what you and the DSS is doing, that is nothing sort of a kind of more than an innovation, right? How would you like to see the young generation contributing now, as well as in new India post COVID-19? Question two on the same thread,
Okay.
because since this is going to be an inspiration series for the students,
Okay.
if you feel that students can come out with some project ideas, right, on this fight against 90, so how can school students can contribute in the fight? So they have a lot of ideas, right? They are coming with a lot of ideas. Specifically right now, when you are fighting about COVID-19, we can come out with a lot of ideas from the students. Do you feel, is there any project ideas which they can take up and actually they can start contributing? Then probably the Atal Innovation Mission, there are all schools have the guides, and with the proper guide and the proper channel, it can come up to the particular level, and it can come out to the reality.
Yeah. Yes, this is a very good initiative which you're saying, that let's address the schools to come up with innovative ideas and projects post COVID-19, to take up certain projects to develop more capability and capacity in the country in various aspects of such kind of disaster management, mitigation issues, risk mitigation, and so on. One thing which we need to understand is every country, every region has a different perspective of life. Our cultures are different, our traditions are different, our upbringing is different, our day-to-day habits are different. And we need to take a balance between the day-to-day habits and our culture and the emergence of technology. Now, while technology is running at a very fast pace, there are certain things which we are having in our kitty as our culture, which can be correlated to this advancing technology, and projects can be taken up for betterment. I'll give you an example about this. There's a lot of mention about various Ayurvedic medicines, Ayurvedic drugs, not only for as medicines for cure of various diseases and illnesses, but also for decontamination, also for sanitization, also for purification of area, and so on and so forth. So such things can be taken up, used scientifically, use today's technology, develop into models, develop into products which can be compact, which can be used, which can be modular, and which can be widely used at affordable costs by people. Those are the kind of projects which can come up. The second area which I feel is detection, to find what are the threats. That is an area which is lacking as of today. You can see that we were looking around for testing kits when this whole thing started, just to find whether somebody has got COVID or not. We are still looking for testing kits. We are still short of testing kits. We don't have that kind of testing the way we would like, or we desire to have the testing which should be done. So this is another area of detection or identification of a threat, of various types of such chemical, biological, and radiological threats, that we need to build self-sufficiency in the country of testing devices, of detection systems, of identification devices, analysis systems for forensic, for deeper analysis of those agents, and so on. And which will also help you in finding the cures for that kind of a thing. So this testing is the first stage to find what is existing, what is the thing. And that, I think, is something which needs to be used as a project system which can be developed. The third area is using technology is artificial intelligence and using robotics. These are two areas which have got a lot of scope as far as CBRN disaster management is concerned. And we must use artificial intelligence developed models and use of robotics for going into areas, for collection of samples, for testing of samples, for so on, so many issues which you can use robotics. Even for delivery of medical assistance, you can use robotics. So we are talking of telemedicine already today. We are talking of surgeries being conducted long distance by robotic means. A doctor is sitting somewhere else and a robot is conducting surgery at a third place. So such kind of innovation is taking place. A lot of such things can be developed to help mitigate such threats in future. Yeah.
Thank you, Colonel. I think that was a quite valuable insights and time. In fact, the last thread that we were talking about, I think it's immensely helpful for the students and the Atal Innovation Mission schools and the NITI Aayog, right? I'm sure as and when the students will be bringing different ideas, the mentors will be able to guide, and definitely it will be properly channelized. Okay. Thank you once again for the time. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For the audience, we tried to cover up all the questions, though we had an hour, so we are kind of 1 hour past 11 minutes. By any chance, if you have missed any question, we will check and we will collect. We'll definitely, if that is the case, we will request. Anyway, Athavale is going to be part of the other sessions and the other panel discussion also. So you will be notified if we are holding any specific session with Athavale or the other sessions with the expert as well as the panel discussions. We'll continue our journey. I think, Colonel, what I still feel that, this is a very intense session, and I'm just taking it to you, right? Some medical related questions came from Dhananjay. And when we will be having some different panel with different experts, I'm sure the sessions will be in a different level, or it will be more fun, more educated, right?
Yes.
I think we'll definitely, if just taking the liberty, I'll be happy to, have you once more and in repeated
most welcome.
Do
most welcome.
guide us. For the audience, right now it's a COVID. So as Ramji was talking about that, the numbers and the spike. So stay tuned, stay at home, be safe, keep learning. See you all soon.
And Jai Hind.
Thank you. Jai Hind. So let's all control, prepare, and act. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, audience, for the time.